Welcome to another episode of the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing. This week, the Secretary of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment, Kwesi Des Vignes, addresses the media.
The reality is that the rate of production and distribution at the Studley Park Quarry continues to rise significantly. We've been able to really ramp up the amount of hours that the plant is operating. We've operated a 3-shift system on some occasions on the Cedar Rapids plant. And we have also been able to repair the Nordberg plant so that we are able to get that plant up and running as well. So that we are able to really and truly push the level of production to meet the demands locally and start stockpiling to meet the demands that would be coming from Trinidad as well. And of course, this has been achieved with a staff of only 56 persons. And you'll recall at one time the Studley Park Quarry was staffed with 161 persons. And just to give you an idea of where we are in terms of distribution, in the month of March, we would have distributed almost 18,000 metric tons of aggregates, close to 90 metric tons of hot mix and 193 cubic meters of concrete. And this represents the largest distribution quantity since Spell has taken over in November. If you were to compare aggregate distribution in the first quarter of 2018 to other quarters in the last 5 years, we realize that the 38,000 metric tons, when we compare with the other periods, actually dwarf the other periods in terms. This has been the most we've ever been able to distribute. Overall, we've distributed close to 63,000 metric tons of aggregate since Spell has assumed management in November. And if you had to compare, this is basically a 380% increase over the same period over the last 5 years. And I want to repeat that, a 380% increase in both production and distribution. And again, I know that good news doesn't travel very far or fast, but I think that this is really good news in terms of what we are doing at the Studley Park Enterprise Limited. And the reality is we are a lot more reliable and predictable in how we are supplying aggregates to our consumers locally. Yes, there has been an increase in price, but of course, that is consummate with the realities of operation costs. And I want to say as well, whereas we were operating in a perpetual situation of loss, virtual loss, where we were losing up to $200 per metric ton at times, we have been able to already achieve break even, and we have already registered for the month of March a $500,000 profit in terms of sales from the Studley Park Enterprise Limited. And again, Spell is a 100% THA owned company. So all profits are accrued to the people of Tobago. And it means then that we have turned a significant corner. And again, I want to thank both the Chief Secretary and the National Union of Government and Federated Workers for their respective parts in ensuring that we've been able to achieve these significant figures. And of course, special commendations to the board and management of Studley Park Enterprise Limited. And again, we're looking towards getting aggregate exported to Trinidad, and we would have submitted the application for the CEC for the rehabilitation of the Barbados Bay Jetty, the existing Barbados Bay Jetty. So we would have submitted the application for the CEC. So we are following the due processes to ensure that we don't infringe on any laws whatsoever. Again, this is phase 1 because we are looking at a situation where, despite not putting in a breakwater and so on, or converting Barbados Bay into almost an industrial port area, we are able to still start exporting aggregate from Tobago. And you would have noticed that the Studley Park Enterprise Limited would have put out tenders or requests for proposals for persons to do barging of aggregate from Tobago to Trinidad in the first instance. and we would have recognized that there are persons capable of doing so. So we're expecting to have good reviews from that. The bottom line is that we're really making every effort to capitalize on our natural resource and start producing at a level that Tobago can truly benefit from and be proud of as well. Just an update, NITCO would have gone out in order to get a second operator, so to speak, for production only at the Studley Park Quarry to supplement the supply that we currently are able to produce. However, only one person would have submitted a tender, and that application was not deemed to be suitable. So we will have to go back out again. In the meantime, the board is looking at alternative business plans whereby they can consider acquiring additional equipment to boost production using the capacity or using what we have already on site. So we are looking at other options. We're not throwing our hands up in the air and saying that all is lost. We are saying that we are willing to look at alternative solutions, and every day, every week, I should say, I'm pushing the board to think critically, and they've been doing a good job responding accordingly. We've been able, in terms of the rehabilitation of the Barbados Bay jetty, we have already realized once we have the certificate of environmental clearance, we've already found a way to cut down on the time for the rehabilitation, as we would have identified sheet piles locally as opposed to going internationally. And as a matter of fact, the alternative was to get the piles from China, and we would have been able to get the piles locally. And again, this would realize significant time saving when the time does come. I just want to shift gears to the Lambeau River Bridge and the situation that exists there currently. We all know that the bridge should have been complete by the end of February, and the contractor has failed to meet the deadlines on numerous occasions, the contractor being Trinidad Contractors Limited. I want to say, however, in all fairness to the contractor, this contractor is or has been deemed to be one of the capable bridge construction firms in Trinidad and Tobago, and they do have a track record of work in Tobago. They would have been the same contractors that would have done the Plymouth Bridge, for those of you who remember, Hope, Blenheim, among other bridges right here in Tobago. They would have also done the Spring Garden Trace Extension and the Belmont Road from Mason Hall to Hope. So they do have a track record of performance in Tobago, but the team that is on the ground in Tobago seem to be encountering no end of challenges in meeting our deadlines or the project deadlines. At this point in time, we are looking at the completion of the bridge itself, the bridge works itself, at the end of May. There are other civil works to be completed, including the reinforcing of the river banks, as we look to mitigate against flooding. The bridge currently has the base course put down, which is cars are able to drive over the bridge, but we are pushing them to complete the works as they're already behind schedule. And I actually literally just received a report from the project managers, NITCO, because we are keeping pressure on the project managers to keep delivering. And the reality is that they would have identified through the consultant's Trinto plan several areas where the contractor would have employed poor planning and poor project management techniques for that matter, so that we are experiencing some of these delays. However, all delays will be at the cost of the contractor. As a matter of fact, damages according to the FIDIC contract are being accrued at this point in time. Liquidated damages of over, I think, between $4,000 to $6,000 a day are being accrued at this point in time. And to date, the division has actually spent some $12 million, which is way below the initial cost, and although we're not finished paying as yet, by all projections, we are expected to realize an almost $3 million cost saving on this project. Of course, the inconvenience of time is still a factor, but it's still good to know that because we are keeping pressure on the project managers, and the project managers are working in close tandem with the consultants, they have been ensuring that we are paying for exactly what we get, and that we are not charged 1 red cent more. And again, because of that, the original cost of the bridge, which was in excess of some $20 million, we expect the final cost to be well below that. And that is some good news for us here in Tobago, that we are able to still realize some cost savings through it all. In terms of our road resurfacing program, after much delay or inconvenience, I must say, to the residents of Daniel Trace, they now have a brand new road, fully paved. Both the wearing course was put down last week. As we complete Daniel Trace, we are also preparing Annesville Road and Annesville Trace for resurfacing, and we can expect within 2 weeks that there will be some relief in that area. As we are complete there with those roads, we are also looking at the Blenheim Housing Development and Environs, Celestin Avenue in Bonaccord, Church Street Extension in Mason Hall will all be experiencing, or will all see, new road services being put down. And what we are doing, I must say, in the division is ensuring that proper surveys are done, so we are able to estimate quantities even better, and we're able to keep track of the project costs. But what we are also doing is putting down good foundations, because a lot of our roads where there have been failures, we have realized that we did not employ good engineering practices in the past, and some of the roads are failing because we did not do the proper preparation of the sub-base. And that is something that is very important, putting a good sub-base to ensure that the road stands the test of time. And speaking of road resurfacing, I'm pleased to announce that the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment has retained the services of MTS as the project manager for phases 1A and 1B of the Claude Noel Highway rehabilitation. This project is one of our key projects, of course, for this fiscal. The portion of the highway that we're looking at, of course, is the Rockley Vale traffic light to the Orange Hill traffic light. It's no secret that the asphalt failure there is very bad. So the residents of Tobago can expect that within 4 months, that portion of the highway will be completed in terms of rehabilitation of the foundation of the highway. As you may or may not have noticed, there are some areas of failures in the foundation where there are sinks or depressions in the highway. So the work that MTS will be supervising will be to ensure that any failures, any sink spots or sore spots will be first addressed. Of course, this will include getting geotechnical tests done and so on. That will be done. So we will fix the foundation. Of course, we'll be milling the highway. So we'll be taking off the 2 courses that are down now. So there'll be milling done. That will be carted away to be used on our agricultural access road program. And from there, we're going to be putting down 2 courses afterwards, the base course and the wearing course. It's very important that people understand that a big reason that we have to employ MTS on this as a project manager is that highway resurfacing is much different to all the other roads because of the CBR, which is the California Bearing Ratio testing that is necessary for highways. Highways have to pass an even more rigid set of tests in terms of the asphalt, have to pass a more rigid set of tests before we can certify it as okay for traffic. And of course, we have to ensure that the highest standards and highest qualities are always achieved. And so we want to ensure that when we put down this these new portions of the highway, that it will be another several years, 20 years or more, before we have to go through this rehabilitation process again. So we are putting down good quality surface. That is the intention. It means that we have to have all testing done. So testing will be done of the asphalt, and there will be obviously some inconvenience during the time when the highway is being rehabilitated. But I want the residents of Tobago to understand that we are doing all in our power to limit the amount of inconvenience that residents do suffer, limit the amount of traffic congestion. We will be looking at the workers of the division have already been mandated, for that matter, to look at all of the alternative routes to ensure that they are easy for traffic. They are much easier for traffic, so that we remove as many impediments as possible. And we will be working with the project manager to see how we can realize cost savings and time savings as well, while at the same time taking into consideration how important the highway is, the Claude Noel Highway is, as a main artery for traffic in Tobago. So I really want to give persons the assurance that there is relief very soon on the Claude Noel Highway. As I would have indicated previously, the engineer's estimate for this project is some $26 million. And again, we are looking to see how we can realize cost savings through this. Another major project of the division is the Smithfield Connector Road, or the Milford Bypass, which would benefit the Scarborough RSC School. And this school, of course, is nearing completion, and we are looking at how we will be easing congestion. The Smithfield Bypass, or Smithfield Connector Road, is part of a network of roads that we want to do in the area, where we plan to connect Sanctus Hill to Smithfield and Mount Mary as well. The design is almost complete. We would have put out for tender for engineering design to be done, and that design is almost complete, and we are ready to start construction work within 6 weeks, so that we are looking to also use labor in-house, so we are not using a contractor on this occasion. We are using workers from the development program to realize the construction of this road. So this will be one of the first new roads in Tobago in a while. The road will connect Smithfield to Mount Mary in the first instance, and again, another phase will be to connect Sanctus Hill to Smithfield. And all of this is in an effort to increase alternative routes both to the highway and to access the schools and lands in the area, so that there's a lot less traffic congestion in those areas. In terms of the unemployment relief program, as you will be well aware, we've been doing a lot of work to re-engineer the way we manage the URP. The reality is the allocation that was provided for URPs is less than it was last fiscal year. It's $18 million that we would have was the budgetary allocation, down from $20 million in the previous fiscal year. And the reality is, in the last fiscal year, we would have spent $54 million in the unemployment relief program. This is an untenable situation, especially when we don't see the rewards or Tobagonians don't see the rewards of this expenditure. So we have gone about revising the program, adopting a project management approach. I can say that some of the initial 13 of the original 19 projects that we resumed the program with are within 1 fortnight of completion already. And it is because, again, we have employed the strict project management and monitoring and evaluation. And again, I must thank the Chief Secretary for his input in how we are now managing the unemployment relief program. His intervention has been both timely and has been very instructive as well in ensuring that the URP realizes gains for all of Tobago realistically. To date, of course, we have the women women's program in particular, or the vulnerable in society, the women's program. We have the women currently working on a fortnight on, fortnight off basis. However, through a tripartite arrangement with the Division of Food Production, Forestry and Fisheries and the Division of Community Development, Enterprise Development and Labor, the women in the women's program have been exposed to training in different areas, including commercial composting, vegetable seedling, nursery management, marketing, and so on, so that the women are being exposed to a series of trainings with the intention of certifying these women and then partnering with the BDU to make available to them grants and loans for them to start their own small businesses. So the reality is we are using the URP to bolster our agricultural thrust on the island. We have met some success. I don't know how many of you are aware that we had our first seedling sale on Friday at the URP compound, and we would have sold in excess of 100 crates of seedlings already. And I mean, to see the amount of seedlings that were produced in the time that we have been open, it means that, again, it's testimony to the new approach to managing the program and seeing that, ensuring that agriculture is one of the main driving forces within the URP. We are looking to open up agricultural operations in the west and north shortly, so that we're able to employ or transfer some of the workers who are in the environment section, for example, into agriculture. So again, they are producing for us. In terms of the division, again, within the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment, I just want to highlight that as the secretary for the division, I would have been representing the Tobago House of Assembly on the Standing Committee for the Development of the Maritime Sector in Trinidad and Tobago. There, I would have made 2 presentations to the Standing Committee, which is an interministerial committee, a high-level committee as well. Based on the presentations that we would have made, that I would have made at that committee, recommendations were taken back to the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago. And in conjunction with the Tobago House of Assembly, the Cabinet has decided and has employed the services of NITCO to put out a request for tenders for persons interested in developing marinas on the island of Tobago. If you would have looked through the newspapers yesterday, you would have seen that the RFP is out already, and we expect to see what the proposals come back to us with. Again, this is one of the major development thrusts that we want to achieve in the drive to diversify the economy, because there are gains that we can realize, economic gains that we can realize from developing our yachting sector in a formal manner. And we are looking forward to that. Also within the division, you will recall that last year I would have accompanied the Chief Secretary on a trip to China. We would have met with the China Railroad Construction Company while we were there, among others. And out of the discussions with the CRCC, we are now at a place where we are moving towards having 4 engineers from the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment be engaged in an exchange program where the intent is to have them go to China to be trained in the project management. Of course, the Chinese have made an art out of project management, innovation and technology in project management as well, and building technology. So we are trying to build the capacity of our local engineers so that when they come back, they're able to raise the game as to how we manage our projects here in Tobago. And I'm really pleased that we have the support from CRCC on this. At this point, we are, of course, engaged. It's a bilateral type of agreement. So the Ministry of Foreign Affairs the Embassy of the People's Republic of China and the Office of the Chief Secretary will be in close communication as we iron out the details. But this is very good news as we look towards building the capacity of our engineers here in Tobago. And as we speak of building our capacity, the Executive Council today agreed to the formation of the Tobago Infrastructure Development Committee. And that committee will be a multi-stakeholder committee, including representatives from different units and divisions within the Tobago House of Assembly, as well as the public utilities, town and country planning, the Tobago Truckers Association, and so on, as we look towards really streamlining infrastructure development in Tobago. For far too long, infrastructure development, private development, and in some cases even public development has gone on unchecked for the most part. And we're ensuring now that we streamline the processes. And as well, it's one of the outcomes we expect is that foreign direct investment efforts will not be frustrated by some of the bureaucracy, the inherent bureaucracies in our public service. For example, if someone has to do a development in Tobago, they have to get town and country planning approval, they have to get approval from WASA, the Division of Infrastructure, the Division of Health, Wellness and Family Development, and so on. By putting this committee together, we can effectively cut down significantly on the amount of time that approvals take to be processed. Within the division, we are looking towards ensuring that our maintenance units under the recurrent program are well staffed. You may be aware that since between 2007 and 2009 was the last time our permanent list was addressed. And again, I want to thank the President General in particular and his team, Mr. Lambeau from the National Union of Government and Federated Workers. We are now very close to signing off on the permanent list. And in the first instance, what we are doing is moving some of our development workers from within the development program into the recurrent program. So some 400 workers will be transferred from under the development program to the recurrent program. It means that the teams, the traditional teams that take care of vegetation control, the maintenance of drains and walls, retaining walls, sanitation on the streets, these things will now be bolstered and we'll be able to more effectively serve the people of Tobago, because for far too long some of these teams have been affected by persons retiring and they have not been replaced. And many of the teams are short, and we're now going to a place where they'll be fully staffed again. Of course, there are implications for us in terms of human resources. So we are going to be employing or engaging these supervisors in particular in training so that they're able to manage effectively the human resources that will be given to them to do the vegetation control, roadside sanitation, and so on. So we will be looking at a vastly improved situation in terms of our roadside maintenance, our road maintenance right here in Tobago. And I want to say as well that we will be realizing significant savings under the development program. And I'm not hiding to say that last year, well, as of now, we have 1,017 workers in the development program. And in the last fiscal year, that would have cost us in excess of $80 million in salaries to pay these workers. And I want people to understand, and I want you all to understand, the real challenges that we face within the Division of Infrastructure and by extension the Tobago House of Assembly. And again, to the credit of the Chief Secretary, he has insisted that for as long as possible, we maintain levels of employment as far as possible. Some of the first advice that I would have been given when I got into the division was, Secretary, we need to send home some of these workers so that we can realize savings and we can do work. But again, by being committed to maintaining employment levels, think about the fact that these development workers in some instances have up to 3 dependents. What would have been the situation if we had sent home, let's say, half of these development workers? Yes, the private sector may claim that they would absorb some, but are they really going to absorb over 500 masons, carpenters, and just ordinary laborers, steel benders? I don't think so. So we have a responsibility within the Division of Infrastructure and by extension the Tobago House of Assembly to maintain levels of employment as far as possible. And the reality is, with limited resources, we always have to make choices. And some choices may not be the most popular choices. They may not be the easiest choices, but they are choices that are made in the interest of each and every Tobagonian.
Thank you for staying with us for the Tobago House of Assembly's Post-Executive Council Media Briefing for the week ending April 21st, 2018.